Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how sales has changed and how we need to adapt. I think our careers have changed so much. And it's not just getting into accounts. It's once we're in, how do we keep those deals moving? How do we close them? How do we get away from it just dying on the vine, the do nothing? No decision, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you call it. The commission is all the same, a big goose egg. So we're going to talk about that in pretty detail today. I'll sum it up at the end, and at the very end, I'll teach you how you can double your income in the next 12 months. Would you like to do that? If you don't want to do that, that's okay. The bottom 99% is plenty of room. Plenty of room down there. Let's get into it, but before we do, make sure you're checking out Co-Video and the show notes, where I have the coupon codes for all the partners. Co-Video is the way to connect up with people, talk about things changing. Video is crushing the internet right now. It's the thing that's working. It's engaging. If you've checked out my profile on LinkedIn, you'll see the traction that I'm getting with it. I put literally minutes a week into it. Everyone says, well, how do you have time for it? I go, well, I go on a walk and a run anyway. I have my phone with me anyway, and the film crew, they can catch up. No big deal. Also, make sure you're checking out Pipedrive with the coupon code Brutal Truth. You get 60 days free, and it's a great way to keep track of your opportunities by stage. It fills in the contact information, has a calendar link, and all that email intelligence that you want. Did they click on your link? Did they open your email? When did they do it? You get notified exactly when they did it. It's all built in. Just go there. Pipedrive, Brutal Truth coupon. Let's get into the interview. Make sure you listen to the outro where I fill you in on doubling your income. Hey, Amy, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started,
Hey.
Tell us about yourself.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. So I'm excited to be here as part of our conversation this morning. So just a little bit about me. I am based in Columbus, Ohio, in the States. And I have been an entrepreneur for the last 12 years. So sales leader turned entrepreneur. That's a little bit of the big picture of my path.
And you shared that you were working on a new book. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have a new book coming out mid-September, and it's called The Modern Seller. And I'll tell you, Brian, this is one of those 20-year dreams and 20-month projects to bring it to an actual book to be holding in my hand. So lots of lessons there. But the major theme of the book is that our prospects and clients are operating in this new sales economy. So business dynamics, technology trends, cultural change are all driving and kind of converging on them and changing their behavior, whether that's buying behavior or the behaviors of how they need to be going to market to be successful. And the effect of that is that it has changed their expectations of us entirely, whether we're a sales professional or a sales leader. So I dig into that, and then I dig into what I see are some skills behind the skills that we need to be building to make us more effective, more efficient at our everyday sales activities. So those are the big themes of the book.
And what are those skills? What priority would you put them at?
Yeah, so as I was thinking, what kind of book would I want to be reading if I'm a sales professional, sales leader, or maybe I'm in sales enablement. I'm responsible for enablement activities, or I'm responsible for training. So as I was digging into some of these skills behind the skills, what would make us better at our everyday, there were 5 big ones that I landed on. And I call them dimensions because I feel that they're so much bigger than skill sets. Skills are part of it, but there's also a different mental models that we need to be creating for ourselves, and also maybe some different tools to help us bring all of it together. So there are 5, and I'll give you kind of the big picture of the 5, and then we can dig into the ones that really catch your attention. So the first one is agility. Modern sellers are agile. The second one is entrepreneurial, so really approaching your book of business like a business. The third one is holistic, which my view of holistic is putting the sales professional or the sales leader more into the equation, if you will. We have these finite resources at our disposal every day: time, energy, motivation, discipline, and how we invest those directly impacts our sales results. The fourth one is social. A modern seller is social. And it's not just about social selling, if you will. It's about our approaches to how we build relationships and how we build social capital in the service of our bigger goals, whether it's a quota goal or something else. And then the last one is that a modern seller is an ambassador. They're really functioning as a bridge. And ambassadors are really phenomenal at taking an initial win, like a kernel of a win, and really springboarding that into long-term loyalty, lifetime value. So those are the big five that I dig into.
And which one do you see the least focused on when you go into prospects, your accounts, the people that you help? Which one are people just overlooking?
Probably the one that we tend to overlook the most is the ambassador dimension.
Yeah.
And I will say, as I was doing research and I was interviewing sales professionals, sales leaders, kind of mining my own stories and just socializing some of these ideas, the ambassador one is the one that really caught the most attention. Like, tell me more about that one.
Well, do that, please.
I teed you up for the question.
I thought you liked that.
Yeah, all good. So that's the one that tends to be the most overlooked or catches people's attention the most, because we are very focused, and I put myself into this camp too. I've had to retrain my brain a little bit. Very focused on new account acquisition, new business. Yeah. What are we doing to add new clients into the fold? Which is, it's exciting. It's fantastic to win a new client. And that's how my brain tends to be wired as well. But where we sometimes forget is that we've done all this work to land this new client. And then sometimes the experience after the sale or how we grow that account to long-term loyalty, that can be a forgotten part of the equation because we're focused on what's new and what's next versus expanding what we've already worked so hard to build.
And are you seeing sales leaders grab onto this, like outside of the SaaS space, outside of the recurring revenue space?
Yes, absolutely. So I spend a lot of time in professional services, insurance, and also some in technology. And I'm seeing this theme really resonate kind of cross industry. So it's something that this idea of building ambassadors on your team, and how do we extend or expand what we've already built. So for sure.
And that seems pretty intuitive to do, especially like in, very personal professions like insurance, right? Because, you get most of your business through referrals. It's very much a network-based sell. Mm-hmm. And I would think that, finding a net cold new opportunity would be really hard, wouldn't it?
It probably depends on what the type of insurance that you're selling and how your organization is set up, or even in professional services, the type of service that you're selling. So yeah, for sure. It is definitely a deeper relationship-based sale. But oftentimes where I see the gap happen is, so in professional services, you're doing a project and the project has come to a close, or you're in insurance and you have earned the business, but then you may not be putting in the effort until you realize like, oh, they're coming up for renewal. I better make sure that they're willing to renew with me, whether it's commercial or personal. So I do see where those gaps happen in virtually any industry once you've gotten that initial win.
Because it's kind of a different personality, because you got the hunter mentality, but then once you capture the deal, you've got to turn farmer, nurturer, or as you characterize, ambassador.
Right. So you have your hunter role on. You've earned that piece of business, and then it's that's a mental shift, if you will, or a new mental model that we need to create to say, okay, how do I grow this where I'm still maybe earning some new business, I'm expanding it, but it's not that net new. I'm having an opportunity to build on what I've already worked to earn.
Because I think that dovetails pretty well into your idea of social, where it's, you not only you're taking care of the implementation, the relationship, but trying to build off of it, kind of snowball flywheel type thing.
Right, right. So you've earned this new piece of business, this new client, and one of the challenges, or one of the trends, and this probably isn't going to be a surprise to people that are listening in on this, but the number of influencers and decision makers in many opportunities is increasing. So while I do not think that the single decision maker is dead by any stretch, I do think that there are those scenarios. It pays to be aware of the fact that there are likely a lot more people behind the scenes influencing something that you may or may not be aware of. And so for me, that's where the social piece comes into play, because that means you're really paying attention to how you're building your social capital and your relationships across the organization, maybe into different areas of the organization, and not just in the silos that we get used to building relationships in.
Now, you struck a hot button with me with number two, as far as like thinking like an entrepreneur. And, I talk about this all the time because, the idea of going from job to job as a salesperson it's kind of devastating in a lot of times, because you've got the ramp up, the peak, and then all of a sudden you got to go start over again instead of,
Yeah.
Obviously you have your own business and it's a very different thing. You're building something, and each year hopefully becomes bigger and better and easier to grow. It certainly wasn't that way at the beginning.
Oh, right.
Why should reps think this way?
And I where I can really relate to this, and I didn't share this as I was introducing myself, but the first 10 years of my career I spent in technology. So it's a little scary that I bucket my career into decades now, but the first 10 years of my career was all spent in tech, and for the last 7 years. Before I became an entrepreneur, I worked for IBM and I worked for Lenovo. It's the PC division spinoff. And so when we talk about the kind of the mentality perhaps of you're selling a commodity, I sold probably what can be deemed as the ultimate commodity, PC hardware, laptops, tablets, before tablets were what they are today. So I can really relate to that idea of sometimes feeling like you're selling a commodity and having to rise above the commoditization mindset. And then also just the fast pace of change when it comes to moving amongst organizations. So back to your question about how can somebody who maybe is in an industry where there's lots of churn and they may be changing jobs more often, the idea of thinking like an entrepreneur. It's the idea of where I'm at in my space. I'm going to treat my book of business like a business, no matter where I am. So that means I'm willing to take the extra steps to look at the top line of my territory, to look at the bottom line of how profitable and successful my territory is. Where can I see opportunities for growth? Where can I see this headed in the next, 1 year to 3 years? And even if you're sitting in a role saying, I don't even know if I see myself in this role for the next year, let alone 3 years, that entrepreneurial thinking that's a lifelong skill to build. And if you are changing, you can grow your territory where you are by thinking that way, and it's going to make you more attractive to the next role that you are hiring for. To me, it's a selling strategy if you're looking to move into another role.
And that's it, because too often you see people with the employee mentality of, I manage this territory or these accounts, and that's all I care about. I don't go outside of that. I don't, invest in my own training, my own tool set, my own skill set. I do
Yeah.
what is the minimum that's required.
Yeah. I'm going to show up. I'm going to sit in this box and do exactly what's required of me. And then I'm going to head out for the day. And, I think the reality is that not everyone is equipped or wants to think and be like an entrepreneur. So if I'm a sales leader and I have a team of, let's say I have a team of 10 people, that means I need to take a really good hard look at my team and see who on my team is either already thinking in this way or maybe have the potential to be this way, and I can develop them a bit further. Who on my team are going to be the people that, they show up, maybe they're meeting their number. They better be meeting their number, right? But they're showing up and they're doing their thing. And then there's always at least a couple people on the team that they are going to be your disengaged folks, kind of the bottom feeders that drag everybody else down. So if I'm a sales leader, I'm going to be looking at my team really hard to see where I have the potential to build more entrepreneurial thinking in my team.
Yeah, because certainly as sales leaders, they're looking around and they're looking at, who's the order takers. And, we might have a great opportunity where the economy's hot right now and unemployment's at super low rates. But that hopefully this will last forever. But history has taught us it won't.
Right?
I'm not an economist. I only play one on the internet.
Right?
But you obviously see what's happened in the past. I'm sure you're talking decades. So you lived through the 2008 recession, and the people who are the order takers are the first ones to go. The managers want the entrepreneurs. They want the people who are going to figure it out and on their own, take responsibility for it and make things happen. The days
Absolutely.
of the order taker are coming to an end, I think.
Well, and you hit on something a little bit earlier that is it's a hot button for me, and I'm so passionate about, which is this self-development. I think sometimes we are, and I know I've been guilty of this in past roles, where we are waiting for somebody to tap us on the shoulder for a development opportunity. And if you do have that in your organization, I mean, you're so fortunate to have that. But if you're in an organization that maybe is a startup, or there is not the self-development mindset that's quite there yet, it's on all of us as individuals to be willing to develop ourselves, whether that is something that's free, something that we make an investment in, a financial investment. There's so much more access today to resources to develop ourselves. That's something that an entrepreneur is really willing to do. They're willing to invest in themselves when their organization isn't.
Yeah, and I think that proactiveness of owning it and taking action towards it, not just learning it, but doing it, getting feedback, and understanding that it's our job, it's our income. And if we don't do it and try and sit around or wait for training or wait for leads or wait for something, you might not be happy with what you get.
Oh, for sure. And this last 10 years of my career as an entrepreneur, 10, 12 years, has been running a training firm. So I went from being in a sales role to taking a 180-degree pivot into learning and development, which that might be a whole other conversation for another day, and just that reinvention. So the idea of being responsible for our own learning and development, that's been kind of my hallmark, my drum I've been beating for the last 10 years. So take the opportunity to own it and go after it.
That's it, because I talk to sales leaders all the time, and none of them want these people that they have to train and handhold, and they want people who are going to go out and do it and be able to take feedback, even if it's not, packaged in gift wrap. It's just the world has changed.
And that's part of agility.
Yeah. And what does that mean to you, agility?
Yeah. So when someone is agile, they are somebody who's usually a very fluid thinker. they are really comfortable with ambiguity. They are okay with the fact that there is a lot of information swirling around them and there are lots of distractions and they are not always going to have the immediate answer. They're okay with ambiguity. They're okay with making confident decisions in ambiguity. And probably the biggest hallmark of agility that I see, especially today, there's so much information out there. It's the ability to filter and process through like mountains of information and look for the intelligence in it. And whether that's intelligence for ourselves or maybe it's intelligence for a prospect or a client, like you're able to unearth those original ideas, create those original ideas that can help a prospect or a client move his or her business forward. That's perhaps one of the biggest hallmarks of agility. And that all comes into play around having the mindset of being a continuous learner.
And is it a mindset or is it really a skill set that you have to develop?
I think it's both. Yeah. And that's why, as I was writing this book and really going back and forth in kind of struggling, if you will, to kind of like, is this a mindset? Is it a skill set? I really think it's both. And that's why I landed on calling these dimensions versus skill sets. And sometimes we have to be willing to go out and try to build the skill set, even if the mindset isn't there, which is not an easy thing to do. Like if you're somebody who is not, you haven't developed a comfort level with getting feedback, whether it's positive feedback or constructive feedback, that's something that you may just have to be willing to try and do, and then the mindset will come with it. So sometimes it's reversed. I think a lot of times we wait to be kind of struck by a lightning bolt of the right mindset, but sometimes we got to go out and do to actually build the mindset.
That's it, because the market's giving us feedback all the time, whether we listen to it or acknowledge it or not. But when we get it, it's probably too late.
Yeah, the market's giving us feedback or our leaders are giving us feedback. You've hit the timing element is crucial. And I think the filtering element becomes very important too. Whether it's market feedback or maybe it's feedback from your leader. Are you getting feedback from trusted sources? Because not all feedback is created equal. In learning how to filter that out.
And why should salespeople get this book, read it, and study it?
Well, I'm a little biased, of course, but so I think that there are a couple of big things here. The sales landscape is changing so radically, and especially in technology. So if we have a lot of technology listeners out there, folks that are in that field, your field is going to look very different a year from now, even from what it looks like today. So these next generation dimensions are so critical to being able to stay ahead of the change curve, whether it's for change in your own organization or change with your prospects or clients. So that's one thing. And the second thing is the prospecting, negotiating, proposing, closing, none of those things go away. And there are a lot of great resources out there. So I purposefully did not write a book about those. But those are skills, those are activities that you have to be doing every day anyway. But you have to be making some different choices about how you go about those skills. You need to be able to amplify them if you're going to be more effective and more efficient. And this book gives you the dimensions to build to help you be better at your everyday sales activities. And I'd say the third thing is that it's very practical. I'm not a theorist. You're not an economist, and I'm not a theorist. I'm very practical, and so every section of this book has specific strategies that you can practice, put into your book of business, put into your territory to help you get better. So I want it to be, my goal is, I hope that somebody buys this book becomes like, if you have a physical copy, it becomes dog-eared and you have notes in it and you're coming back to it again and again because you're finding it so valuable to build these specific dimensions.
Yeah, because that was my next question. Because some books, and I think too many people take books like about sales or strategy or, account management, and they take them and read them like novels as opposed to reading them like handbooks or textbooks. And And most of these books should be used as kind of a handbook. It should be, in your bag when you travel, on your desk, to be revisited several times.
Yep, it's like a field guide in a way. So you keep coming back to it. And I have some of those books too that I read. They really give me some good things to think about, but I put it back on the shelf. I have a couple that are a couple of those types of sales books and even leadership books where I'm always going back to them, and I have notes that I'm underlining and practicing. That's what I want this book to be for people.
Excellent. And when does it come out?
So it is coming out in mid-September. So I'm waiting on the exact date from the print house and the publisher, but mid-September.
And the title again is?
It is called The Modern Seller.
Okay. And what formats will it be available in?
So, of course, it will be a physical book, and then also Kindle out of the gate, and then probably a little bit down the path will be an Audible.
Excellent. And where can people connect with you and learn more about your work?
So the best places to connect with me, first on my website, which is amyfranco.com. And then the other two places you can connect with me on LinkedIn and on Twitter, Amy Franco.
Sales, we just have to adapt. We have to understand other people. And getting that outer mindset of understanding other people. And I'm doing so much development on this for a new course that'll be dropping in the fall, A Year to Excellence. I'm going to be sharing it with the people in the current courses to get feedback and ideas. But the key element, what I'm finding, is between the A reps and the B reps is this outer mindset, the ability to connect with other people. Because until you have this, you can't have curiosity and genuine interest and the ability to listen. Why? Because you're stuck in your own head. Hey, did anybody care about doubling their income? Would your life be better with twice the income? Well, in sales, thank God we have the control over our income. But what do? We do what we're told and only what we're told, and we live in our little box, and we become good enough, and then we become a know-it-all. Every sales rep I told to is a know-it-all. Okay, do you think a doctor or a lawyer sits there and go, I know everything? No, they're looking for what they don't know, how to become better, how to become the best, how to win as many deals as possible. And in sales, it comes down to two mega skills. One, the ability to start conversations and get meetings with cold, unknown people who don't know you, you don't really know them. It's not just about research and personalization and relevance. Those are all good ingredients in the dish called a great conversation that turns into a great meeting. What I do is I share what I've seen work, not only for me, but my ability to teach it to other people and have success with it. There's a payment plan. So, people who say, expense it. Look, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, don't expect me to invest in you. I'm putting out hours of content. I'm investing in you. I'm not sure why, just my love of sales, I guess. The other great skill is closing the complex sale. I don't mean the double bind close, the alternative close. I mean guiding a transaction, guiding a change within an organization, instead of looking at it as a black box, that checking in, touching base, circling back, all of that stuff is the signal that you do not know how to sell. You know how to service, and we all can service. Taking an order is not a talent. It's barely a skill. And the need for people to take orders is diminishing because we have this thing called a website. And when people know what they want, they don't need us. We have to find people who have the potential pain that we solve and surface that and connect with them and then guide them through that change process within their company. This is what I've done forever since most of you have been alive. And I wanted to learn it because that's where the money was. And I didn't want to work my butt off and not get paid. Why do all the work and not get paid? Sales is all about the outcome, the result, the deal. And if we're not doing that, we're just busy. And guess what? The commission on busy isn't very good. It doesn't pay very well. Go down to the bank and say, I was busy this month. And they'll look at you crazy. Where's your check? That's all they care about. Go tell your boss, I was busy. They don't care. If you don't have results, they want you busy, but you can only get away with busy for a couple of months. Typically, I've seen 9, and because I've had a friend who did the busy approach, and I could pretty much flip the timer from the time he got the job to the time he got canned, because they eventually said, well, we don't care how busy you are. We want results. And that's what the courses do. And it's not just content, because content's not enough. People need help. They need community. So we have office hours. They need to talk to somebody and coach. They have unlimited one-on-ones with me. We get on Zoom, we apply the course to what you're doing, and we share it with the course. We share it with the community. So it's all anonymous. All they hear is your voice. We go through the process. We talk through the issues. I don't need to know what you're selling. I don't need to know the name of the account. I don't need to know your competition, the price, or anything like that. All I need to do is abstract all that out and help you think through what is the most likely strategy to close that deal. So if you want to double your income, let's get going. Come on. We got a couple of down months here in the summer for most of us. July and August are kind of dog days. People aren't doing the big purchases in July and August, if you haven't noticed, at least not in my space. So it's time to take a step back, polish up our game, define our game, and quit guessing. Sales isn't a very good guessing game. It's a strategy game. And if you don't even understand the game, you're playing with blindfold on and earmuffs and baseball gloves on your hands, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. Let's open it up. Let's show what's really going on. So connect up with me on LinkedIn. You can follow me there. If you see my content, give it a little like, a little comment, a little share. I certainly appreciate that. If you like YouTube, it's Brian Burns Sales on YouTube. I'm on the tweets as well. You can check out me there. I really appreciate you listening, and tell another salesperson about the podcast. And connect me up with your manager if you want me to get you the expense. Just write it down. Put it down as gas, mileage, lunch, education, whatever works. We'll see you next time. Hey, are you listening to Sales Questions Podcast? Sales questions, brutally honest answers. 7 days a week, I answer everybody's questions. Can't get enough of them. I love it. I spend so much time answering questions. I just love it. They're all there. No fluff, no intro. About 8 minutes of just pure gold. Also, B2B Revenue Leadership Show. Talk about leadership strategy issues. If you want to get into management, or you want to see how management thinks, or the big thinkers, the real thought leaders in the industry. That's where I keep them, over at B2B Revenue Leadership. So check those podcasts out, and we'll see you next time.